freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never, ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats, and they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back. Hey everybody, this is Congressman Andy Ogleson. Welcome to episode 42 of Restoring the Republic, a very MAGA Christmas. Look, there's a lot to cover, as we go into the Christmas holiday. I had the opportunity, the privilege to be with the president at the White House last week, but we've got Trump's leadership. We've got the Hart-Celler Act that dates back to 1965, which is why we have this invasion that's taken place, Venezuela, and then of course all of the Medicaid scams we're seeing with the Somalis and the Haitians and such. But let's talk about Trump and the economy we have. Look, we are the dominant predator across all landscapes. So that's under the water, that's on land, that's in the air. It's the economy, it's cybersecurity. So we are leading because of great leadership and a leader in President Trump. So let's talk about the economy. I'm on Financial Services, which is the Banking Committee, Homeland Security, and of course I'm the chairman of Cybersecurity for Homeland. And so what we're seeing is, I would predict by the end of this quarter, consumer spending is going to be good. It's going to trend up. The big, beautiful bill is going to kick in January. And then we have this recent rate cut of the interest rates, and we see that the inflation numbers came in way under prediction. So what does all that mean? What it means is the economy is poised to take off. That means that in the spring, we're really going to see the Trump economy take effect. And obviously, that's going to have impacts when we go into the midterms this summer. But that being said, we are exactly where the president promised we would be. The experts were saying that, inflation would be at roughly 3.1, 3.2%. We came in at 2.7. And what that means is that's a 4-year low. I mean, we're now seeing prices come down. Fuel prices are down. And so this sets us up for great success as we go forward. And so, but let's talk about the impacts of the economy from this chain migration. So you have to go back in time. The Hart-Celler Act, which was passed in 1965. And since that time, roughly 60 million people have come here, about 90% of them from third world countries. And so what I would caution is that this quite frankly, invasion that has taken place under any other circumstance, that many people from countries coming into your country that hate you would be considered essentially an act of war. But let's look at the data. Let's look at what's happening in Europe. Let's look at London and Paris and Rome. Let's look at Sweden. So if you take in Paris, 48% of crimes committed by foreigners, most of them Muslim. That's from the French Interior Ministry. That's their data, not mine. London, 40% of sex crimes by foreigners, most of them Muslim. That's from the Metropolitan Police there. Rome, 83% of 2024 street robberies were from non-EU citizens, migrants, most of them Muslim. Sexual assaults, 69%, mostly Muslim. And then, unfortunately, you go to Sweden, where the migrant population is 10 to 12%, but 80%, roughly 80% of the sexual assaults. And so what I'm saying is enough is enough. If we're going to import people to this country, it should be people who love this country, who want to be a part of this country. And so let's come home. Let's talk about Minneapolis, where violent crime, a Somali hub, rose 56%. Dearborn, crimes up 105%. A Muslim majority city. Hamtramck there outside of Detroit, 92% of assaults by Muslim migrants, and then drug arrests, 85%. So now what you see is the importation of individuals from cultures and religions that are incompatible with us here in the United States, and the result is crime, and attacks on women. Enough is enough. Let's get rid of Hart-Celler. Let's repeal Hart-Celler. So I've been the first person to talk about this, to give speeches on this. And in doing so, to give you context, prior to that, we essentially had a quota system so that if you were from another country, there was a limited number of individuals that could come here from that country, and there was competition. So we were only getting the best of the best. We weren't getting the dregs of society. So you look at the Afghanis that have come here, right? Roughly 300s, 200,000 came under Biden. And then what we've seen is 45% of the Afghans are on food stamps, and roughly 60% are getting some sort of welfare, some sort of job assistant or financial assistance. And so they're not coming here to contribute. They're coming here to leech off of our society. And at a time when we have $38 trillion, soon to be $40 trillion in debt, we have to say no more. We have a situation where our children and women are not safe. No more. It's time to deport. And I said in a speech the other night, I received an award from a Republican club, one of the largest in the country. It was actually an award that they created for President Trump 2 years ago. And this year, I happened to be the recipient for leading, for being outspoken, and for quite frankly saying the things that need to be said, have to be said. Because if we don't address this, we are going to lose our nation. We're going to lose our republic. And some will say, well, you just don't like other people, or you're racist. I'm just looking at the data. 68% of Afghanis are on Medicaid. That's for Americans, not for Afghans. 45% of Afghans are on food stamps. I'm not racist. I'm just telling you the facts. Look at Rome. 83% of street crime robberies are from migrants. I mean, you go down the list, city after city, community after community being attacked by the very people that we allowed to come in. No. If you're here legally, if you're naturalized under the Joe Biden administration, you got to go. Now, let's talk about Venezuela. So we're going to skip the clip. We're going to go straight to Venezuela, play that clip if we can.
For the first time, we are fighting and losing a war on our own soil. Let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it.
So that's 1989. And that was Sleepy Joe Biden saying what? We have to go after the narco terrorists. We have to take it to where they are. That's exactly what President Trump is doing, right? He's making boating great again. If you got a boat and you got drugs on it, we're going to blow that shit out of the water. I'm sorry for just cutting to the chase on that. I'm sorry for cussing, but I mean, what about the 320,000 individuals who have overdosed because of this poison that's flooding our streets and primarily coming on those boats? Again, it's our country. We get to decide who comes in. We get to decide who leaves. And those folks do not love us. They hate us. They're poisoning us. And we have to do everything kinetic, which means a physical attack on them by way of the bombs and the boats, etc. It's time to take it to them and to secure our country. This is about our kids. This is about our future. That's what you elected me to fight for, is to come up here. Look, John Quincy Adams said, the people's house. It was his favorite house because that's where you argued and debate. But this is where you have direct representation here in Washington, D.C. And so I'm fighting alongside President Trump to secure this border, to make sure the narco-terrorists no longer want to come here, to make the finances of it no longer possible. We're cutting interest rates. Inflation is coming down. We passed the big, beautiful bill, no tax on tips, and consumer spending is going to be evidence of everything I just said, and we're going to have a great second quarter, great third quarter. We're going to have a great year next year. So you have a reason to be optimistic. I know it can be tough, but continue to have faith in the president because he's the greatest leader we've ever seen. Now, let's talk about Affordable Care Act, Medicaid. Now, of course, the Democrats are hollering and screaming because what did we do? We simply got back to common sense, where we're no longer allowing individuals from other countries like Somalia, like Haiti, where we're seeing these billion-dollar scams. So I'm not talking about a few $100,000. I'm not talking about a few million. We're talking about billions of dollars that have been taken out of the system when you look at it in total. And then when you look specifically at Somalia, where they're manipulating the system. So in 2018, there was $3 million in Medicaid claims for autism. Now you fast forward to 2023 after they were invaded by Somalis, and suddenly those claims for Medicaid for autism is almost $400 million, $399. So we know there's just hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud and abuse just in that one city. Now you add in Chicago, now you add in New York, now you add in every big city, blue city in America where they've been invaded by foreigners who are on and scamming the system. That's money taken away from you. Look, we still have 22 veterans a day that are killing themselves. That's money taken away from veterans. We have kids all across this nation who can't read at the 3rd grade level, not on grade level. That's money away from them. We've got to prioritize America first. Means Americans first. America first means American workers first. And so we've got to have those tough conversations. We've got to stop the H-1B visas. We need to pause all visas. We need to fix that system because we know it's broken. We know that it's being used against us, literally used against us. I was in a Homeland Committee, and if you take anything away from this, know this. The economy's in good position, and we're going to have an awesome next year. And understand that because of Joe Biden, because of Hart-Celler, which we have to repeal, we have 18,000 suspected terrorists in the United States of America right now. That's public information just recently made public in a Homeland Security Committee meeting. And so I can tell you that publicly. Almost 20,000 known terrorists, are in this country because of chain migration, because of Democrats, because of the sleepy, failed policies of Joe Biden, and going all the way back to 1965, Hart-Celler, where they literally put in place a plan to undermine this country, to make us socialist, to make us Marxist. I say no. I say heck no. And I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for our republic. I'm fighting for Tennessee 5. With that, God bless you. God bless America. And may you have a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas.
If you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
There wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment.